the legendary Professor Ngugi Thiong'o is here. How are you doing?
Oh, very fine.
I am so honored that you came on our show.
Yeah, it's our pleasure.
And not just that, you brought 8 of your children.
Yes.
And you've never had this many of them. You've never had this many of them in one interview.
Yeah, I have 9 children. I brought 13. Yeah, they are all here. Right?
Okay, I can't count. What? No. Seriously, I'm so glad that all of you guys came through. And the way we're going to do this is everybody needs to introduce themselves and what they do, so that we can get all their voices in here as we begin. Then I'll tell you why they're all here and why this is an important thing. Start with Prof.
Well, the first thing I like is the free phone. One of the free phones.
Guests do not qualify. Guests do not qualify.
Okay, in that case, my name is Ngũgĩ. I'm an assistant professor of English at Cornell University. I'm also a writer of Nairobi Hit, Blackstar Nairobi, and another 4 or 5 books.
Another 4 or 5 books. I like
I don't count.
Because Professor Ngugi has written 40 books. 40 books. This is crazy. Yeah. If you divide that by his number of years, maybe at 77, that's almost what, a book every 2 years? Something like that.
Yeah, I like it when you put it that way.
Yeah. I'm just trying to break it down. That's about a book every 2 years, give or take.
Yeah, almost. Yeah, almost.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
All right. And
by the way, more are coming.
And there's more coming.
More are coming.
Wow.
We're in competition, actually.
You're in competition.
They want to catch up with me. I'm trying to run.
So besides you, you've got 4 other published writers.
Yeah.
We've got the second writer.
Yeah, my name is Thiong'o, and my day job is as a communications consultant, working with the NGOs and other agents.
And your night job?
Is writing.
The one you're holding is that your latest?
This is the only one.
I'm giving you a motivation. You'll be like, yeah, I should have more than one. So this is my latest.
What is it? What's the title?
It's an anthology of short stories, and the title is Seasons of Love and Despair.
Let me see.
You're
not showing it to me.
You need to hold it up, exactly. Is this available for sale in Kenya?
Yes, absolutely.
Right. Yeah, it's published by, as mine actually I should mention, published by East African Educational Publishers, EAEP.
So it's published by EAEP. You can buy it at bookshops around the country.
He's not even showing me.
Look at you come.
The problem is, there are too many.
Coming on TVs, you come and shamelessly promote yourself.
But it's not as it's him.
Just promote all of them. Instead, buy all my stuff. All right.
My name is Ngũgĩ. I'm the author of The Fall of Saints. It's available here as well. I'm the former director of the Helsinki African Film Festival.
All right.
Yeah.
My name is Ngũgĩ, and my book is called City Murders. Of all the books here, this is the one you need to get.
And why is that, Dosho?
It's very interesting, it's fast-paced, and it will engage you in ways that you never fathomed. Now, having said that, I've also finished work on my second book. This is going to be a 3-book series on the Jack Chidi, I call it Jack Chidi series. So I've just finished Saranya, and currently working on the 3rd one in the same installment.
Okay, got it. So that's the one you need to get. if you're going to buy one book, City Matters.
City Matters.
So what about his 40 books?
Well.
I think some of us didn't have a choice. We had to buy his books.
Oh, I'm so sorry that if you had to buy
No. Really, we enjoyed
the reading.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I have questions about some of your books later.
Okay.
I'm Ngũgĩ, student, Kennesaw State University, African Studies major. Musician, singer, blogger, arts enthusiast, and I'm glad to be here.
Should I speak into the mic?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Ngũgĩ. I'm 21. I just graduated from the Harriet L. Wilkes Honors College, Florida Atlantic University. I studied law, women's studies, and Spanish.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You triple majored.
I did.
What is wrong with you?
I'm still trying to figure that out.
That's crazy. So you're going to go to law school now?
That's the hope. I'm going to spend the next year studying for the entrance exam.
Good luck.
And applying. So accept me.
You want to speak into your camera and just, whoever it is, the admissions people, just accept my law school.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, my name is Björn Lanne, and I'm a journalist, and I live and work in Sweden.
Okay, just part of the team, good stuff. And last but not least,
he is forget to say that he works for one of the top newspapers in Sweden, initially based in Gothenburg, and now another one based in Stockholm. Right.
He's just being modest.
Yeah.
So someone has to be, right?
Yeah, people brought 4 books. Others have written 40.
I thought I did a good job. Modesty, yeah.
Modesty, this is the one you need to get. Last but by no means least.
So I'm Wangari. So I'm his daughter from another father. I'll put it like that. And, based in Kenya. I work for an advertising agency, and I dabble in poetry.
You dabble in poetry.
Actually, she's the daughter of the late Ngũgĩ, with whom I worked very closely. So actually, her name is actually Wangari Ngũgĩ.
We're so glad that all of you came together, such an artistic mix of people. And congratulations, Professor, on 51 years of Weep Not Child, I believe, and 50 years of The River Between.
Yeah, actually, I really feel blessed because, in some ways, Weep Not Child, we came out in 1964. I began writing it in 1962, and although it was not the first to be written, it was the first to be published in April 1964. This is very important for me because it was 1 year or 2 years after we got our independence. So the novel was began in a colonial era when I was a British subject, but it was published as a citizen of a free Republic of Kenya. So I'm very proud of it. Yeah. And also, but also I'm very blessed because it spawned a whole family of writers, not only in terms of immediate biological family, quite frankly, but a whole literary tradition which is developed in Kenya, and I'm very proud of that.
Did you stand over them with a big stick and insist everybody must write? Is that what happened?
No, it's really or a big brain. They can speak for themselves, but we are a family of storytellers, Maybe, I don't know, is that,
that is quite true. Yeah. I remember coming home from school in the evenings where we would sit down and tell stories, some true, some made up, some fantasy, but mostly made up. And the idea was to tell a good story that will capture everyone's imagination. And then after you finish, the next person, say Wajiko, would try to outshine me.
By telling a better story?
By telling a better story, or an improvement on something I'd said. So
in fact, there's a story which I first told it to Thiong'o and Kimunya. Kimunya is not here, and about Monkey Cowboy. Then I was put in prison, I don't know for about a year or so, When I was away, Thiong'o told the others the same story, but now as his own, So, and the story is about Monkey Cowboy, but you can take it from there.
Oh, you want to
One of the things I loved growing up with my father is that me and my other brother, Kimunya, would sneak into his bedroom very early in the morning before he went to work, and he would read us a section from abridged versions of some classics. And what we liked most is to listen to his morning voice. So I'd put my head on his chest, and he would read, let's say for example from Treasure Island, 15 men on a dead man's chest. And his chest would vibrate.
Don't forget your rum.
And a bottle of rum. So what I like is the vibration.
But let's bring out the Monkey Cowboy story.
Actually,
I want to hear that.
All right, what's prepared? I'll start with the singing.
Well, you go.
Okay. Monkey Cowboy dage hurika, edigarika nakora, which translates into Monkey Cowboy cannot be beat by thieves or by police. Now, who wants to tell this? The
Tell the
story.
story. What happened when?
Okay, so the story we really love, and
Yes.
I think you're based, at least I know I've based, my characters on, was one day, Mangi Cowboy was just walking along, and then suddenly he was, surrounded by these cops, and then he told them, look, okay, if you want to shoot me, I'll help you. So I'll position you where exactly you should shoot me, from where you should shoot me. So he stood in the middle, positioned them, and then he told them, I'm going to count to 3, and then when I count to 3, you shoot. So he went 1, 2, 3, shoot. And then he ducked, and they shot each other, and they all died.
Those are, of course, colonial soldiers.
They're colonial
Montgomery was on the
soldiers.
side of actually, and I think he was last seen where? I think the story has been passed on literally, from person to person, and beyond, who is much younger than these others. The last time, where was Cowboy? You found him where?
No, I found him outside of the library.
Oh, really?
No good. On a cold, snowy day.
Why do I feel the story is incomplete? There's supposed to be a performance around it.
No.
It's a collaborative.
Yeah, well, we do collaborations actually.
Do you still do that? Do you still collaborate as a
we
family?
do actually collaborate. Let me give you an example. For instance, there's a series of poems which Mokoma and Thiong'o are writing, in celebration. Well, not actually, more or less in solidarity with Michelle Mogo and her daughter who passed away, some years ago. Now we have the poems, but I don't have them here. But Thiong'o, who is really a great composer and a musician, and he can play any instrument, by the way. I'm sure he's very envious when who was playing the guitar over there. And he was,
go with the guitar.
We can bring back the guitar.
Yeah. So now we've asked to make a melody. Can you demonstrate? I don't know.
Yes, I
Mel-
can.
Do you have
And
a
I have
melody?
my choir here.
My choir, are you ready? Yeah.
Are you
Na
ready?
na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na.
Listening
Na
in silence of
na 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 na.
And I think of you when you walked into reggae, wearing dark green clouds, creating 10 feet of beauty, giving sun to a night where there was none.
Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na.
Wow.
Yeah. Let me just say this.
And I'm going to do it practice.
Oh, this was just good. This is great. Wow. I would want to see you after like a week of practice.
The poem which he read just, is not the actual poems, which will be part of the music sequence.
Yes.
He just thought we'd read the shortest
A little
possible
something, a
poem.
little
Yeah,
cut.
right. To see how it fits. Yeah.
But let me ask these guys to the other hand, how much pressure is there? You just graduated from being Ngugi wa Thiong'o's daughter, truthfully.
Well, I'm literally on the spot. But it's good pressure. It's inspiring pressure. I get to look up to all my brothers and sisters. I have a younger brother named Thiong'o,
Right.
who's also named Thiong'o. And he's published, so that's a kind of added pressure because he's younger than me.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's good. Inspires me to work harder.
Inspires you to work harder. How did you all just fall into writing?
And by the way, she doesn't tell us she was also the governor of our college.
My term expired.
And you were the governor.
Yes.
And she left office.
Good point. Not for governors here.
Right.
I was going to ask the writers if they all just naturally sort of got drawn into writing. Was it pressure from over here?
Actually, sorry,
Okay.
sorry. Let me take it. Then we go this way.
Okay.
When I was in primary school at Tigoni, Thiong'o had already left. He was in Nairobi school, and there was a children's magazine called Rainbow. So he pens a poem, dedicates it to me, but instead of saying dedicate to my brother, he puts me as the author. So the next day, all the students are crowding when I walk in school, and they're crowding around me and like, hey, Toshu, Toshu. I'm like, oh.
They say, hey, look at your poem. So, okay, I have to own it now because I see my name. So I said very casually, my bike, and I, recite the poem for the first time I'm seeing it. Then I look at the picture he had drawn, but the bicycle didn't have a chain. And quickly the students picked up on it, and now I was running through primary school. I explained why the bicycle doesn't have a chain. But what happened shortly after that is that I became a celebrity of sorts. And the girls were liking me, and I wasn't hating it.
Larry, what else would a younger brother expect from
that is the greatest form of affection, right? I think that's pretty cool.
That is so funny because I just wanted to say that is so funny because at the back of our door, our bedroom door, because I thought that was so fascinating that you wrote that, and I've always thought that you actually wrote that.
I own it.
But confession. So we had a cutout of this poem that he's talking about at the back of our door, and I always thought, wow, Dosha, wow. But,
well, now we know who really wrote it.
Yeah. This was a magazine which was edited by Ngugi.
Yes.
Yeah.
The weekly review.
Not the weekly review, but
before.
they had a children.
It's like a rainbow or something. Rainbow.
Yeah.
Rainbow. Yeah.
Okay. I have several questions I need to put through to you real quickly, Professor, before we'll let you go. One of them, I asked a lot of people who recognize his work and what he's achieved over the last 77 years, I should say. Why do you all have dreadlocks?
We don't.
Or some form of expression with the hair. Yours is not unique, not kawaii, and the same with everybody else.
Oh my. Well, when I had dreadlocks, it was sort of a turning point for me when I actually learned. I think it was like my freshman year in college where I started learning about identity and owning who you are, and that was part of me owning who I was and shedding, the whole identity of you have to be placed in a certain box to be accepted.
Okay. I'm looking at you.
Yeah, for me I would say I only have like 3.
We haven't run a comb through
Okay, let me ask you something. Let me ask you something. Waking up every morning and perhaps afternoon and evening and combing your hair, it's like medicine. So I hate the idea of a comb. That's all. Yeah. You're more noble. My mind was just a torture. Yeah.
All right, that makes sense. Or you could cut your hair every week like I do. It's so much easier to manage.
The only problem we have is me, actually, in the sense that I comb my hair, and I won't say this publicly. I comb my hair religiously every morning. And at school I had the same problem, and the headmaster of Alliance High School even reminded me that it's on the record that I used to be punished for my hair. But actually I combed it every day, which I still do. But when I'm thinking, I tend to do this gesture all the time.
So you make a mess of it.
Sometimes I do like that. When I'm not even aware of it. I do that.
And sometimes in pools.
At the end of it, I don't understand what you are saying. I didn't comb my hair because I didn't actually comb it.
Because it's in a certain state. I have to sneak in a break.
But the only claim I can say, mine is natural.
All of it is natural.
Ahmed
Ibrahim wonders, are Makuyu and Kameno still antagonistic as depicted in the book, The River Between?
Well, those are images, and even in Kenya today, we know that there are, antagonism all around, and I think what the symbolism of Honia River is very, very important because it's saying, but between two antagonistic rages and so on, there is actually a meeting point, and there's a common river from which we all can drink. That's why it's called Honia River, which is that's in the river between. That's why it's called Honia River, meaning the waters that heal. And in Kenya, we actually do have water that can heal, which is our commonness, as Kenyan people. That's water that heals, and in a way is symbolized by the Honia River, which runs between two rages, initially antagonistic, until people realize actually they drink from the same stream. And in Kenya we can say we drink from the same Kenyanness. Okay?
All right.
May I suggest Tusker might play the same role?
A lot of questions about what happens to Lawrence Misango. Ask Prof what happened to Waiyaki and Nyambura in the river between. He left us in suspense.
Quite frankly, I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
How can you know?
The whole highlight of moving this interview was that I could ask you that.
Actually, how art works for
Yes.
me anyway. You know, the first 50 pages of a novel which I'm writing, I'm more or less in control. But there comes a moment when there's a qualitative change and the characters and the story take over. Thereafter, it's like trying to tame a wayward horse, but it's pulling you in the direction it wants to go, right? So that's what happens in the case of the characters in the river between. Artistically, it's kind of following a certain kind of artistic logic. It was like saying the questions raised in the river between have not yet been answered in a historical sense. So essentially there was no closure as such because it was a part of a continuing historical process. For instance, the setting of the river between is the time when Europeans were taking over land from Africans, okay? But that story continues, quite frankly, with Weep Not Child. Okay. So it's as if what was not answered in the river between, in a way, is answered or is taken over, in Weep Not Child, although by different, characters.
Mukoma, there's a certain beauty in an African teaching English at an American university. So people want to ask, how does an African teach English to white people?
Well, okay, that's a very tough question. No, but I teach African literature though. So maybe the question would be, teaching African literature to primarily American, but you also end up with a range of mixture of students. So actually I get a lot of African students, and so on and so forth.
Why did Professor Bandon writing in English and adopted Gikuyu, and yet he's an international writer?
That's very important.
Look at the smile on his face.
He was waiting for it.
When can we get to this?
All right, we've got time. Go for it.
Okay, let me say this. Internationality begins where you are. There's no abstract internationality. It begins with Kenya. Even globality begins, for us Kenyans, begins with Kenya. Okay? Otherwise, there's no abstract, globality. What I realize is this over the years, though, is this. That you can only be truly universal by being very particular about where you live, the languages you use, and so on. But for me, abandoning English for Gikuyu language as part of our African language is because of my advocacy that we have to, that divorcing people from their languages is completely alienating themselves from themselves. It's like making, put it this way, I've sworn I will not let anybody make who I am a problem to myself. If I'm born black, I don't want anybody to make that a problem to myself.
Right.
In the same way, if I'm born into a language, I do not want anybody to make that a problem to myself. While he or she, why is his language more of a language than my language?
Do you know, Professor, that there are people, especially in more of the urban centers here in the country, that don't speak the mother tongue? They don't speak Luo or Taita or Kikuyu or whatever, and they live in Kenya.
Oh, wait a minute, not even that. There are people here in Kenya who have middle class parents who bring their children in order not to know their languages, deliberately.
And sometimes it says because they're trying to kill tribalism.
No, there's nothing. Tribalism is a colonial invention.
What do you mean?
Well, first of all, the word tribe means a collection of savages. Okay? And let me give you another example. why should 250,000 Icelanders are a nation or a nationality, but 10 million Yorubas are not a tribe? Okay? I think people should call other people by the name they call themselves. Okay? If you are Luo, if Luo people call themselves Luo, just say the Luo people or the Luo. The Agikuyu people or Agikuyu. In the same way, quite frankly, you say English people or the English, the Chinese people or the Chinese, the French people. But why should we append, honestly, the word tribesman in every reference to an African? And why should we African people actually then internalize that as a way of describing other people, or for that matter, describing ourselves?
All right.
When you say I'm this by tribe, you are saying, oh, I'm this by this savagery. You know, you are savaging.
You're identifying yourself as a savage.
You are savaging, yes. You are saying,
right.
I'm this by, you know, by this type of savage.
I wonder what the thoughts on this identity is as an African growing up or living in the West, in America or whatever other part of the world, and how you find that identity, if you can, and if you don't want to take that. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, I was born in the States, so it was very important for me to learn my language in order not to feel alienated from my country.
Did you learn?
I did. I lived here when I was 7 for a year, because I remember being really upset for a long time that I was born in the States. And I would get really upset with my parents, why wasn't I born in Kenya? And so they sent me over to kind of rectify that.
So you speak Kikuyu or Swahili?
I struggle, of course, because I'm around English all the time.
Yes.
But I'm here for a month just so that I can speak and get it back in my system, because it's very important.
And learn Kiswahili also.
And learn Kiswahili as well.
Good. Excellent.
In fact, that, by the way, I was going to say that should be the policy of we Kenyans, or Africa in general. Learn your mother tongue, then Kiswahili as the national language, and then English as that other language. And both three languages are very important, but the order of their relationship is equally important.
Okay.
So let me just say this one sentence before. If you know all the languages of the world, and you don't know your mother tongue or the language of your culture, that is enslavement. On the other hand, if you know your mother tongue or the language of your culture, and you add all the languages of the world to it, that is empowerment. And I believe Kenya, we should choose empowerment rather than enslavement. Yeah.
All right, Mukoma.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, when it comes to learning African languages, of my experiences at UW-Madison, where I was doing my graduate work, of working. I was in the African languages and literature department, and seeing these white students speaking very fluent, shall we say even Tanzanian, Kiswahili, or Yoruba, or Igbo, or Xhosa. And I ended up actually taking some Kiswahili classes, because I was like, from a white teacher,
Oh wow.
Yeah, but but it means that that they're embracing our languages more than we are. I mean, how many of us here, speak Xhosa or Zulu, or Yoruba?
You speak Xhosa.
And your dictator. Well, I speak a bit of Zulu. No, let me brag. Dictator can Ngũgĩ.
Let me say that one thing about the languages. This concerns me, and if I say anything in this 50 years of Ibn child, it is this: no child should be criminalized for speaking their language in the school compound. We should never, ever humiliate a child for speaking an African language in a school compound, which is in Kenya.
I grew up, I went to a village school, and we used to get punished for speaking our mother tongue.
Remember, humiliating a child for speaking their own language. What does that mean? It means you're making that child feel humiliated, ashamed of the culture that created that language, the people that created that language, the history that created that language. And so and then embrace that other, which is the base of their reward and so on. And it's terrible to make a child feel uneasy about their own history, about their own culture, or even the people who created a language which is the basis of his humiliation. We do that to our children. When we do that, we are killing our future. We are killing a sense of dignity to ourselves. And it should be, actually, I appeal to the government really, to make that criminal for a child, any Kenyan child, anywhere, whether they're speaking in Luo, Kikamba, Kivyema, in school, should never, never be humiliated for being themselves.
Okay. Kevin Carey wonders. Yes, as you answer that, Kevin Carey wonders if you all know Kikuyu.
Oh yes,
you all do.
Yeah, our kids speak Kikuyu.
Your kids speak Kikuyu, but they don't live here.
No, like my daughter was born in Finland and she speaks Finnish, and I've always spoken to her in Gikuyu, and she speaks English as well, and she's.
Oh wow, that's amazing. Yes, go ahead.
Like,
she wanted to say something.
Going back to the, the Gikuyu thing, like I have a different experience from Mombi. I went to the U.S. when I was like 13. Like it never occurred to me to question that I spoke Kikuyu at all, because we just always did it. I've always known it, but it was always brought to my attention when I would meet someone, like another Kenyan, and they would ask me, "Oh, so what's your name?" I'm like, Joki Wagoge. They're like, no. Your other name.
What's your English name?
Oh, the one
like,
English name.
But they would always say, your other name. I'm like, Joki Wagoge. No. Your English name. I'm like, I don't have one. So that's when it would occur to me that that's when it would be brought to my attention that there's something going on, some issue or something.
Then, if I might add.
Yes, go ahead.
I wasn't born in the West. So
you put the mic closer to you.
I was born in Zimbabwe, so I speak Shona.
All right, which is close to Swahili, right?
It's very close. But the thing was, when I was doing my O-levels, I wanted to drop the Shona because it was difficult for me. And when I went to my father and I said, look, I want to drop the Shona, and then he's like, are you going to drop the Shona and the English? Or are you just dropping the Shona? And when I said that I was keeping the English but dropping the Shona, he said, the only way that you will drop the Shona is if you drop the English too. And so I did the Shona, I did it at O-level, and I passed it, even more than some of the
native
Shonas.
speakers.
Yes. And what I understood from that was that don't put other languages above African languages.
Okay.
So for me, I take pride, even when I'm filling out an application and they say, what other languages? It's always French, Portuguese. I'm like, where's Shona? Because I speak.
You want to select that Shona?
The only African language that actually highlighted is Swahili.
Yeah.
So I'm always looking for Shona, and I always explain they're spoken in Zimbabwe. So I take pride in that, which is something that was instilled in us. Speak your own language and also take pride in other African languages. Don't just say, French or other languages.
Okay.
Other African languages.
We'll get to yes, Mukamadanti.
Okay, the irony of how we approach learning English in Kenya and in most former British colonies is that we assume that if you abandon and if you beat out the African language out of the kid, that they will pick up the language, pick up English faster.
Yes.
But studies show that actually you pick up the second language faster if you know your mother tongue. So, that's a great irony. So for the parents who want their children to learn English, it would be better for them to make sure they are also speaking their mother tongue.
Yes.
No, I was just about to say. That not all of us were born in the States. I was born here, went to school over here, went to school in the States for a couple of years and came back. So the whole question of language and identity has never been really a source of conflict.
But you speak Gikuyu.
But I speak Kikuyu, Swahili, and German, and English.
Oh wow!
He's the example.
As you can hear.
Yes, I need to finish up.
I have a 3-year-old, Nyambura Wadosho, and it did not even come to our minds that would teach her English. It's Gikuyu in our house. So she understands everything I tell her in Gikuyu. She's 3. She goes to school where they teach her English, but in our house is Gikuyu, and she responds well also in Gikuyu, and she's
at 3.
At 3.
Wow.
She'll struggle with some words, but that's our primary language.
But she's also a golf player.
You stole my thunder.
He was hoping to end with
You
I just set it up.
Oh wow,
young man.
Right.
All right, this has been really illuminating. He didn't say anything. I'm sure you must have thoughts on any of these topics.
On the topic of Kikuyu, or languages.
Or identity for that matter.
Identity.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I grew up in Sweden, where I'm born. And for me, I think it's very interesting to hear because we have so many different perspectives, all in one family. And I think like the issue of identity is something we all struggle with, right? We all have a process that we go through. And except for him. But I mean, I feel like for me, I can relate to so much about what Fafa is talking about, and, like both in his books and when he's giving his talks, because like my mother tongue is Swedish.
Yes.
That is where I'm my most comfortable. That's where, like, that's the way I think. That's the way I express myself, and that has given me so much, you know, to feel that security and like that confidence.
Yeah.
And this is me. This is who I am, and what you're talking about, how like African languages get almost degraded, both internationally and and locally, is such a shame, you know. And like growing up as Swede, you don't have to handle that because in Sweden, Swedish is the #1 language, and it is. We take pride in that, you know. We have great literature in Swedish, written in Swedish, and we're 9 million people. So I can very much relate to what Fafa is talking about. How it really should make sense that way.
I have to bring this to a close, but I need to ask this from Sam Karanja. My respect to Ngũgĩ and the family. Are you into Gikuyu traditional religion, Christianity, or atheism? I'm sure this comes up a lot.
I'm into spirituality. How about that?
What is that?
Spirituality, you know, if you look at human life, what distinguishes from animals and so on is a sense of ethical dimension to ourselves, you know. And its highest level really is a sense of the spiritual, you know. And if you look at many religions in the world, you know, they are striving for that spiritual. But many religions have come to replace rituals, rites, what they do, they confuse it with spirituality.
Okay.
So many religions in the world, quite frankly, today they kill spirituality because they are all sold on to the notion that my God is more of a God than your God.
Yes.
And I say that is very ungodly.
All right. That's a great place to end. Professor Ngũgĩ. That is how to go out, really. I don't think it would be fair to say anything else after that.
Can't have the last one.
You want to have... Okay, fine. Go ahead.
I don't have anything. I just gonna say.